We are, yes, that's a very good point. I too need to record. Thank you. Um, we're so pleased to have everyone. Um, if I could remind everyone to be on mute, unless you are the person currently reading a poem, that would be absolutely fantastic. We have just an unbelievable number of you, which we're so delighted about. Um, we're so grateful to have you. It's really fantastic to see you all. We are going to keep kind of letting people in, and it's possible as well that we're going to have people kind of arriving and leaving as the event goes on. We're all just going to embrace that. For poet readers who are just arriving, just a quick note that we are going to be going in the order that I sent round previously. So if you could note who's before you in that list so that you know when you're coming, don't worry, we'll nudge you if you haven't kind of unmuted and started talking. Um, welcome everybody. I feel like because I can see the numbers ticking up, I'm having to kind of be in constant welcome mode. I feel like the MC in Cabaret.
Yeah.
If only. Um, Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more kind of filling of time and saying the same things, which is if you could be on mute unless you are currently reading a poem, that would be fantastic and really incredibly helpful. We're so delighted to have you all. Because this is a poetry event, we of course will not start bang on time, because why break the habit of a lifetime? But once the numbers start slowing down in terms of people from coming in from the waiting room, then we'll get started proper. Which actually it looks like it's happening. We've got a little bit of a like break in the flood. Um, so I just want to say welcome everybody. We are really so grateful that everyone wanted to be a part of this. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Rosa Campbell. I'm based at the University of St Andrews in Scotland. The person that you see possibly below me, possibly above me, possibly to my side, is my co-director of the Network for New York School Studies, Nick Sturm, who's based at Georgia State University. So we're a very international network, and we're a network of scholars, artists, writers, poets, who are invested in some way in New York School studies, particularly New York School poetry. Um, Tonight, obviously, we are here to celebrate what would have been the 100th birthday of everyone's favorite poet, Frank O'Hara. And of course, one of the great kind of ironies of today is that technically it is not O'Hara's birthday. O'Hara's birthday is tomorrow, but that's a Friday, and we figured you would all have other things that you might want to be doing at that point. So we're doing a birthday eve celebration, which we're delighted to be doing. But of course, O'Hara himself did not think that this was his birthday. Very famously, he believed his birthday was June 27th, not March 27th. He believed himself to be the star sign of Cancer all his life, when he was truly an Aries, which is just one of those kind of wonderful strangenesses about him. I'm going to run through the housekeeping just one more time, and then you'll probably stop hearing from me. If you are not currently reading a poem, please keep yourself on mute. There's a lot of us, so if we get everyone's dogs barking, as mine will, then it's going to be a true cacophony. Feel free, though, to use the chat or to use the reactions button at the bottom, especially if you want to show your appreciation for our absolutely brilliant poet readers. We have slightly unbelievably 16 amazing poets reading tonight. I believe we're spread across 4 time zones. which we're really delighted about. And for those readers still arriving, we are going to be going in the order that was sent round to you a couple of days ago. I'm not going to do introductions or bios for individual poets because that will just sort of extend the time colossally. And so if you love a particular poet that you're hearing from, then please do Google them. I'm sure they're all Googleable. Many of them will be known to you already, and you will not need to do that. So I would like to start off by inviting Peter GIZZI to kick us off. Each poet will be reading, and this is a reminder for listeners and for poets themselves, each poet will be reading one poem by O'Hara and one of their own poems. We're
We're
so
reading one
delighted.
of our,
I feel like I've said the
we're
word
reading one of
delighted.
our own poems. Wait,
Oh,
I didn't
hello.
know that. We're reading one of our own poems as well.
Yes,
I
Peter,
missed
if
it.
that's
I'm going to
possible.
read two poems of O'Hara's. It's fine.
Read two poems of O'Hara's.
All right,
That's
we go.
also totally fine. You can take this whatever. A fair warning to absolutely everybody. Tonight is very likely to be fairly chaotic, and I'm hoping that we will all embrace the party spirit. It's not every day that someone has a centenary. But I'm going to hand over to Peter to kick us off. We really, really hope that you all enjoy what we're expecting to be just a completely amazing evening or afternoon, whatever time zone you're on. Um, Thank you again, Peter. All
Thank you,
yours.
Rosa, and Nick for putting this together. Happy almost birthday, everyone. I chose the poem To Hell With It. And I looked at it, it's like, this is a really dark poem. Why did I choose this one? Because it begins with winter. And yeah, and also it mentions Bunny. So I was thinking of Rosa and the excellent book she put together. So I'm going to read that one and the poem that follows, A Young Poet, the one for John Wieners, which I hope I don't cry. To hell with it. Hungry winter this winter, meaningful hints at dismay, to be touched, to see labeled as such, perspicacious Colette and Vladimirovich meet with sickness and distress. It is because of sunspots on the sun. I clean it off with an old sock and go on. And blonde Gregory dead in fallout on a highway with his Broadway wife, the last of the Lafayettes. How I hate subject matter, melancholy intruding on the vigorous heart, the soul telling itself you haven't suffered enough, and all things that don't change, photographs, monuments, memories of Bunny and Gregory and me in costume, bowing to each other and the audience like jinxes. Nothing now can be changed, as if last crying no tears will dry, and Bunny never change her writing of the bear, nor Gregory bear me any gift further beyond liking my poems. No new poems for him. And a large red railroad handkerchief from the country in his sports car, so like another actor. For sentiment is always intruding on form. The immaculate disgust of the mind, beaten down by pain and the vileness of life's flickering disapproval. Endless torment pretending to be the rose of acknowledgement, courage, and fruitless absolutions, hence the word hip, to be cool, decisive, precise, yes, while the barn door hits you in the face each time you get up. Because the wind, seeing you slim and gallant, rises to embrace its darling poet. It thinks I'm mysterious. All diseases are exchangeable. Wind, you'll have a terrible time smothering my clarity, a void behind my eyes, into which existence continues to stuff its wounded limbs, as I make room for them on one after another filthy page of poetry. And this is the poem right after. It's like around the odes moment. This is for John Wieners, a young poet full of passion and giggles, brashly erects his first poems, and they are ecstatic, followed by a clap of praise from a very few hands belonging to other poets. He is sent, and they are moved to believe once more freshly in the divine trap. 2 years later, he has possessed his beautiful style, the meaning of which draws him further down into passion and up in the staring regard of his intuitions. He stays up 3 days in a row, works morning, noon, night, and then towards dawn strolls out into the street to look at City Hall and feel the noise of art abate in the silence of life. He is tired, hysterical. He is jeered at by thugs and taken for a junkie or a pervert by police who follow him as he should be followed, but not by them. He has started his little magazine and plans a city issue, although he's scared to death. Where is the castle he should inhabit on a promontory while his elegies are dictated to him by the divine prosecutor? Is it a bank on 14th Street? While we are seeing The Curse of Frankenstein, he sits in the 42nd Street Library reading about the Sumerians. The threats of inferiors are frightening if you are a Negro choosing your own high school, or a painter too drunk to fight off a mugging, or a poet exhausted by the insight which comes as a kiss and follows as a curse.
Thank you so much, Peter, for setting us up. That was incredibly moving. And I think we have Ron next.
Yes, here I am. I'm just going to read one poem of Frank's and Nothing by Myself. And before it's the poem you all know, I'm sure, called The Day Lady Died. Before I read it, I'm going to just run through it very quickly and throw some little footnotes out about references in it that you might or might not know. This poem, he refers to getting off the 419. That's a train that he would take from Manhattan out to Long Island, in this case to East Hampton. And let's see here. Oh, he refers to something called An Ugly New World Writing, which was a magazine published in sort of pocketbook form. And it was a literary magazine. And in fact, the cover designs were usually extremely ugly. And he refers to a Miss Stillwagon, who was a teller in a bank. I don't know who she was, aside from that. And then he goes into something called the Golden Griffin, which was a bookshop on East 58th Street in Manhattan at the time. And he goes in there to get a Little Verlaine. And a Little Verlaine was an edition of erotic poems by Paul Verlaine, which is very hard to find these days, that book, with drawings by Bonnard, you know who that is, and et cetera. And he refers also to Brendan Behan's new play. I think that the Irish playwright Brendan Behan had just published a new play of his called The Hostage about 6 months before this poem was written, and references to Genet. And then he talks about somebody named Mike, who was the painter Mike Goldberg. It's a friend of his. And then Frank goes into a liquor store called the Park Lane Liquor Store, which conveniently located half a block from the Golden Griffin bookshop. And he refers to the Ziegfeld Theater in Manhattan, and a carton of Gauloises, the French cigarettes, and a carton of Picayunes, which is a cigarette that I don't think it exists anymore. It was a really horrible tasting cigarette. It was really awful. Manufactured in, I think, New Orleans. And then the New York Post, and then the Five Spot, which was a jazz club in near Cooper Square. And it mentions Mal Waldron, who was a jazz pianist. So enough of that. Geez, I should get an MA just on that. Here's the poem itself, which is the best part. Oh, and he refers to The Day Lady Died, which of course is Lady was the nickname for Billie Holiday. The Day Lady Died. It is 12:20 in New York, a Friday, 3 days after Bastille Day. Yes, it is 1959, and I go get a shoe shine, because I will get off the 419 in East Hampton at 7:15, and then go straight to dinner, and I don't know the people who will feed me. I walk up the muggy street beginning to sun, and have a hamburger and a malted, and buy an ugly New World writing to see what the poets in Ghana are doing these days. I go to the bank, and Miss Stillwagon, first name Linda, I once heard, doesn't even look up my balance for once in her life. And in the Golden Griffin, I get a little Verlaine for Patsy with drawings by Bonnard, although I do think of Hesiod, trans Richmond Lattimore, or Brendan Behan's new play, or Le Balcon or Les Nègres of Genet, but I don't. I stick with Verlaine after practically going to sleep with quandriness. And for Mike, I just stroll into the Park Lane liquor store and ask for a bottle of Strega, and then I go back where I came from, to 6th Avenue, and the tobacconist in the Ziegfeld Theater, and casually ask for a carton of Gauloise and a carton of Picayunes in the New York Post with her face on it. And I am sweating a lot by now and thinking of leaning on the John door in the 5-spot while she whispered a song along the keyboard to Mal Waldron and everyone, and I stopped breathing. Let me just, I realized I left off the reference to Patsy there. That's Patsy Southgate, the writer, who was a friend of Frankson, who was, I think she was married to Mike Goldberg at that time. Okay. That's all. Thank you all for coming. Happy birthday, Frank.
I believe I'm next, Rosa, unless you were about to introduce. No, great. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabriel. I am going to be reading a true account of talking to the sun at Fire Island. The sun woke me this morning loud and clear, saying, "Hey, I've been trying to wake you up for 15 minutes. Don't be so rude. You are only the second poet I've ever chosen to speak to personally, so why aren't you more attentive? If I could burn you through the window, I would to wake you up. I can't hang around here all day." "Sorry, son. I stayed up late last night talking to Hal." "When I woke up Mayakovsky, he was a lot more prompt," the son said petulantly. "Most people are up already waiting to see if I'm going to put in an appearance." I tried to apologize. "I missed you yesterday." "That's better," he said. "I didn't know you come out." "You may be wondering why I've come so close." "Yes," I said, beginning to feel hot, wondering if he wasn't maybe burning me anyway. "Frankly, I wanted to tell you I like your poetry. I see a lot on my rounds, and you're okay. You may not be the greatest thing on earth, but you're different. Now, I've heard some say you're crazy, they being excessively calm themselves to my mind. And other crazy poets think you're a boring reactionary, not me. Just keep on like I do and pay no attention. You will find that people always will complain about the atmosphere, either too hot or too cold, too bright or too dark, days too short or too long. If you don't appear at all one day, they think you're lazy or dead. Just keep right on. I like it. And don't worry about your lineage, poetic or natural. The sun shines on the jungle, you know, on the tundra, the sea, the ghetto. Wherever you were, I knew and saw you moving. I was waiting for you to get to work. And now that you are making your own days, so to speak, even if no one reads you but me, you won't be depressed. Not everyone can look up, even at me, it hurts their eyes. Oh, son, I'm so grateful to you. Thanks. And remember, I'm watching. It's easier for me to speak to you out here. I don't have to slide down between buildings to get your ear. I know you love Manhattan, but you ought to look up more often. And always embrace things, people, earth, sky, stars, as I do, freely, and with the appropriate sense of space. That is your inclination, known in the heavens, and you should follow it to hell, if necessary, which I doubt. Maybe we'll speak again in Africa, of which I too am specially fond. Go back to sleep now, Frank, and I may leave a tiny poem in that brain of yours as my farewell. Son, don't go! I was awake at last. No, go I must. They're calling me. Who are they? Rising, he said, someday you'll know. They're calling to you too. Darkly he rose, and then I slept. Thank you. Happy birthday, Frank. Thank you, Rosa and Nick, for asking me to be a part of this. I am not a bourgeois gay man, but I'm going to read from a poem that I was writing on Fire Island last year. The point of watching this mealy queen in the old place and what pushes her into performance art and not in the shit sense. Seeing these upper side of middle-aged and wealthy but not ruling class queens see themselves in the deluded bitch on stage. Fame, success, she said, but not too much. And I love women, Liza in particular, almost more than she in the gay sense loves herself. Delusion, man, we couldn't do without it. You and me and that third term between us that I'll just call the audience we fantasize we have. So if I force found the flinted edit of my shit self, so if diva worship saved your life, Delulu bitch, what now? And what sickness should we tell ourselves today? Thank you so much.
I get to have a clap in mind, but hi everyone, so great to see you all. Thank you, Rosa and Nick, and thank you to all the poets. Happy birthday, Frank O'Hara. And I'm going to read a poem by him called Mayakovsky, who we've already heard mentioned. In the, 1. My heart's aflutter. I am standing in the bathtub crying. Mother, mother, who am I? If he will just come back once and kiss me on the face, his coarse hairbrush my temple, it's throbbing. Then I can put on my clothes, I guess, and walk the streets. 2. I love you, but I'm turning to my verses, and my heart is closing like a fist. Words, be sick as I am sick. Swoon, roll back your eyes, a pool. And I'll stare down at my wounded beauty, which at best is only a talent for poetry. Cannot please, cannot charm or win what a poet, and the clear water is thick. With bloody blows on its head, I embrace a cloud, but when I soared, it rained. 3. That's funny. There's blood on my chest. Oh, yes, I've been carrying bricks. What a funny place to rupture. And now it is raining on the ailanthus. As I step onto the window ledge, the tracks below me are smoky and glistening with a passion for running. I leap into the leaves, green like the sea. 4. Now I am quietly waiting for the catastrophe of my personality to seem beautiful again and interesting and modern. The country is gray and brown and white in trees, snows and skies of laughter always diminishing, less funny, not just darker, not just gray. It may be the coldest day of the year. What does he think of that? I mean, what do I? And if I do, perhaps I am myself again. And then I'm just going to read a poem that I wrote called The Green Lake. What work will you leave behind? I asked the tailor who has sewed the button upon my shoe. I can walk again. Yesterday, everything felt so hopeless. Now I have the energy to sit in the sun. All of the damned, seething baths. Now I am finally on my own. When I go places, I call her and unload my fashionable happenstance. I used to stop in the street and pick up an acorn. There were so many things I used to do. In the middle of the fire, I went and thought to mention it to the ghost. I have already burned, it said. Its face was like my father's, but was different. What work will you leave behind? I asked myself while in the rain. Oh, this and that, it answered me, and handed me the stars, then the moon. Thank you so much. Happy birthday, Frank O'Hara.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Rosa and Nick, for organizing this party. Thank you, Ron, too, for reading The Day Lady Died. That's actually, I think, my favorite O'Hara poem. But when I first read it when I was younger and just starting to write, the line that really got me was when O'Hara writes, "To see what the poets in Ghana are doing these days," which to me at the time seemed like such a radical, beautifully radical desire. And 60 years on, how are we keeping that sort of interest in others close? So I'm going to read a poem called Ode, Salute to the French Negro Poets. From near the sea, like Whitman, my great predecessor, I call to the spirits of other lands to make fecund my existence. Do not spare your wrath upon our shores, that trees may grow upon the sea, mirror of our total mankind in the weather. One who no longer remembers dancing in the heat of the moon may call across the shifting sands, trying to live in the terrible Western world. Here, where to love at all is to be a politician, as to love a poem is pretentious. This may sound tendentious, but it's lyrical, which shows what lyricism has been brought to by our fabled times, where cowards are shibboleths and one specific love's traduced by shame for what you love more generally and never would avoid, where reticence is paid for by a poet in his blood or ceasing to be blood that we have mountains in our veins to stand off jackals in the pillaging of our desires and allegiances. Amy Césaire. For if there is fortuity, it's in the love we bear each other's differences, in race, which is the poetic ground on which we rear our smiles, standing in the sun of marshes, as we wade slowly toward the culmination of a gift, which is categorically the most difficult relationship and should be sought as such because it is our nature. Nothing inspires us but the love we want upon the frozen face of earth. An utter disparagement turns into praise as generations read the message of our hearts in adolescent closets, who once shot at us in doorways or kept us from living freely because they were too young then to know what they would ultimately need from a barren and heart-sore life. The beauty of America, neither cool jazz nor devoured Egyptian heroes, lies in, lives in the darkness I inhabit, in the midst of sterile millions. The only truth is face to face, the poem whose words become your mouth, and dying in black and white, we fight for what we love, not are. And I will read a poem also about a lake. The image. Lakes resting one on the other. The image of eventide. Seductive last liturgy. Thus, the lake is a government for the dead. Content exit stops. A doubled image offers zero hesitation, sincere speech tangled in with reeds and other blunted, invasive, murky flora at constant risk of infection. Coming to bring you home is joy enough. Rocks sway like loosened mouths, like a name tag on a body, like a silk glove pumped up with mud, an unearthed carafe, a stone arm turning itself inside out to reveal mats of moss colonies, and armies of milfoil, and jealous duckweed, and brittle naiads sway, practice coding in order to forget death. Thank you so much, everyone.
I think we have Leanne next.
All right. Thank you. I'm beaming in from Queens. So we talked about Mineola Prep. I'm in my grad class. They're back here. Some of them are online. Great to see everybody. Happy birthday, Frank O'Hara. We love you. I'm going to read the great acrostic for Vincent Warren. You are gorgeous, and I am coming. You are gorgeous, and I am coming. Vaguely, I hear the purple roar of the torn down 3rd Avenue L. It sways slightly but firmly like a hand or a golden down thigh. Normally, I don't think of sounds as colored unless I'm feeling corrupt, concrete, Rimbaud, obscurity of emotion, which is simple and very definite, even lasting. Yes, it may be that dark and purifying wave. The death of boredom nearing the heights themselves may destroy you in the pure air, to be further complicated, confused, empty, but refilling, exposed to light. With the past falling away as an acceleration of nerves, thundering and shaking, aims its aggregating force like the metro towards a realm of encircled travel, rending the sound of adventure and becoming, ultimately, local and intimate, repeating the phrases of an old romance, which is constantly renewed by the endless originality of human loss, the air, the stumbling quiet of breathing newly, the heavens, stars, all out. We are all for the captured time of our being. And I'm just going to read a little part of this poem. Thank you. A part of work in progress called No Long Chelsea Goodbyes. Rough sleepers awake. One says someone told her I was a seashore or a sweetheart when I slipped her $1 and I noticed her sleeping partner in front of the TD Bank. And I think of the tray-rich hours of Chelsea streaming past every hour and day. I learned Lear's dogs are marvelously named. Trey, Blanche, and Sweetheart. Jimmy Schuyler is Ganesh, smiles to the top of the stairs. They're actually Regan's dogs. They bark at me, Lear says, beside me on the subway. Back to you, strange downtown world, with your purple-shirted Wall Streeters and all the alligators at the centers of the platform. Long before Pizza Rat went viral, I saw Xmas Rat clutching a candy cane between the tracks at 14th, right near the bending tunnel in the uptown side. His eyes were X's too. I tracked him every day on my commute, this way and that, out of reach, as he or she still clutched the cane, smaller each day until they both disappeared, as does most everything in New York and elsewhere. That's why writing is an aid to memory. First thoughts upon waking were about this streaming. The fans anticipate the cult of personality, how to diffuse it while still enjoying human emotion, even romanticism.
Yes, I'm next up. Is that right, Rosa? I'm Mark from London, and I'm going to read First Dances from 1962. From behind, he takes her waist and lifts her, her lavender waist, stained with tears, and her mascara is running. Her neck is tired from drooping. She floats, she steps, automatically correct. Then suddenly she is alive up there and smiles. How much greater triumph for him that she had so despaired when his hands encircled her like a pillar and lifted her into the air, which after him will turn to rock like boredom, but not till after many hymns, and he will not be there. The punch bowl was near the cloakroom, so the pints could be taken out of the boys' cloaks and dumped into the punch. Outside, the branches beat hysterically towards the chandeliers, just fended off by fearful windows. The chandeliers giggle a little. There were many introductions, but few invitations. I found a spot of paint on my coat as others found pimples. It is easy to dance. It is even easy to dance together sometimes. We were very young and ugly. We knew it. Everybody knew it. A white hall inside a church. Nerves. And I will read one about Frank's great predecessor, Walt Whitman, called Six Children. Late in life, Walt somewhat improbably claimed to have sired 6 children with 6 different women, but no one's ever found any trace of these children, but I thought I'd imagine his getting of them. 6 children with the epigraph from this letter to John Addington Symonds: though unmarried, I have had 6 children. The first woman I ever got with child wore calico in Carolina. She was hoeing beans. As a languorous breeze, I caressed her loins until her hoe lay abandoned in the furrow. The second was braving the tumultuous seas that encircle this fish-shaped isle. By the time a sudden riptide tore her from my grasp, she had known the full power of Paumanok. One matron I waylaid, or was it she who waylaid me, on a tram that shook and rattled and rang from Battery Park to Washington Heights and back. Oh, Pocahontas, you died as Rebecca Rolfe and are buried in Gravesend. Your distant descendant, her swollen belly taut as a drum, avoids my eye and that of other menfolk. While my glorious diva hurls her enraptured soul to the gods, I sit dove-like, brooding in the stalls. What in me is vast, dark, and abysmal, her voice illumines and makes pregnant. Someday, all together, we will stride the open road, wheeling in an outsized pram, my 6th, this broken mustachio soldier whose wounds I bind up nightly. His mother I forget. Thank you.
And I think we have Kristen next.
Yeah, hi.
There, hi.
Hi. Yeah, my name is KRISTÍN ÓMARSDÓTTIR from Reykjavik, Iceland. I'm going to read a poem. Excuse me, I have got a little bit cough. And happy birthday, Frank O'Hara, and thank you all poets for this is great reading. Yeah. And I first read it in my mother tongue, Icelandic, and then I read it in English, and then one short old poem by myself. Já, hvers vegna ég ekki málari? Ég ekki málari, ég ljóðskáld. Hvers vegna? Ég held að ég vildi heldur vera málari, en ég það ekki. Jæja, til dæmis, þá Mike Goldberg að byrja á mynd. Ég lít inn til hans. Sestu og fáðu drykk, segir hann. Ég drekk, við drekkum. Ég lít upp. Þú ert með sardínur í myndinni. Já, það vantaði eitthvað þarna. Ó, ég fer og dagarnir líða og ég lít aftur inn hjá honum. Málverkið í vinnslu og ég fer og enn líða dagarnir. Ég lít inn, myndin fullgerð. Hvar eru sardínurnar? Nú bara eftir einhverjar bókstafir. Þetta var mikið, segir Mike. En hvað mig? Einn daginn ég að hugsa lit. Appelsínugulan. Ég skrifa línu appelsínugula lit. Fljótlega þetta orðin heil síða af orðum, ekki bara fáeinar línur. Því næst önnur síða. Það þyrfti að vera svo miklu meira, ekki af appelsínugulum lit, heldur af orðum. Hver þessi appelsínuguli litur er skelfilegur og lífið allt. Dagarnir líða, ljóð mitt er fullort og ég hef ekki einu sinni minnst á appelsínugula litin ennþá. Þetta er ljóð í 12 erindum og ég skýri það appelsínur. Og í dag á safninu sé ég málverkið eftir Mike. Það heitir Sardínur. Why I am not a painter. I am not a painter, I'm a poet. Why? I think I would rather be a painter, but I am not. Well, for instance, Mike Goldberg is starting a painting. I drop in, sit down and have a drink. He says, I drink, we drink. I look up. You have sardines in it. Yes, it needed something there. Oh, I go, and the days go by, and I drop in again. The painting is going on, and I go, and the days go by, I drop in, the painting is finished. Where's sardines? All that's left is just letters. It was too much, Mike says. But me, one day, I'm thinking of a color, orange. I write a line about orange. Pretty soon it is a whole page of words, not lines. Then another page. There should be so much more, not of orange, of words, of how terrible orange is and life. Days go by. It is even in prose. I'm a real poet. I'm a real poet. My poem is finished and I haven't mentioned orange yet. It's 12 poems. I call it Oranges. And one day in a gallery, I see Mike's painting called Sardines. Thank you. And then I read, it's an old poem, very old, from past century, decades ago. Excuse me. Dessert. When I sit at the dinner table, I look at 3 men who have sucked my breasts. 1 sucks them still, 2 suck them temporarily. I look at the sun floating in through the window, and I look at the glasses on the table. I look at the 3 mouths that open and close around the food. I look at the food disappear from the table as the sun shifts in the window. I say, you have all sucked my breasts, as they wipe their mouths with the napkins. They nod and smile at me, and I smile at them. The meal is not over, I add. There is dessert. I say and stand up because I don't want anyone to leave. I want to have my eyes closed as I bring them the dessert. The hot, red hot dessert and whipped cream. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm here with Angela. This is kind of a wild reading. I think about when we were baby poets and who were we reading? We were reading Frank and Eileen Myles and Sophie Robinson, and that's it. And now everyone's here. It's like, I mean, you know, it took a while before New Narrative made it to us in the UK. I'm gonna read a poem that is a slice of queer utopia that lived on my wall for many years, and it feels, you know, it's intense to be reading it in this moment that we're in, 2026. And so I'm going to just drop a link in the chat. It's for a feminist art organization in Beirut who are some friends of ours, and they could use your money because they're doing mutual aid work for displaced people in Lebanon and in Beirut. This is on 281 if you're reading along on the collected poems. Ode to Joy. We shall have everything we want, and there'll be no more dying on the pretty plains or in the supper clubs. For our symbol will acknowledge vulgar materialistic laughter over an insatiable sexual appetite. And the streets will be filled with racing forms. And photographs of murderers and narcissists and movie stars will swell from the walls and books alive in steaming rooms to press against our burning flesh, not once but interminably. As water flows downhill into the full-lit basin, and the adder dives for the ultimate ostrich egg, and the feather cushion preens beneath the reclining monolith that's sweating with post-exertion visibility and sweetness near the grave of love. No more dying. We shall see the grave of love as a lovely sight and temporary, near the elm that spells the lovers' names in roots. And there'll be no more music but the ears in lips, and no more wit but tongues in ears, and no more drums but ears to thighs, as evening signals nudities unknown to ancestors' imaginations. And even the imagination itself will stagger like a tired paramour of ivory under the sculptural necessities of lust that never falters, like a 6-mile runner from Sweden or Liberia covered with gold, as lava flows up and over the far down somnolent city's abdication, and the hermit always wanting to be lone is lone at last. And the weight of external heat crushes the heat-hating Puritan, whose self-defeating vice becomes a proper sepulchre at last, that love may live. Buildings will go up into the dizzy air, as love itself goes in and up the reeling life that it has chosen for once or all. While in the sky, a feeling of intemperate fondness will excite the birds to swoop and veer like flies, crawling across absorbed limbs, that weep a pearly perspiration on sheets of brief attention. And the hairs dry out that summon anxious declaration of the organs as they rise like buildings to the needs of temporary neighbors, pouring hunger through the heart to feed desire in intravenous ways. Like the ways of gods with humans in the innocent combination of light and flesh, or as the legends ride their heroes through the dark to found great cities where all life is possible to maintain as long as time, which wants us to remain for cocktails in a bar and after dinner lets us live with it. No more dying. I'm just going to read a really short poem from Apparitions, which has these lines from Frank O'Hara's poem Homosexuality, which if you haven't read, I don't know if anyone's going to read it tonight, but it has this incredible scene at the end of this black drag queen walking down the street, and the couplet is like, crying to confuse the brave, and then it's a quote, "It's a summer's day and I wanted to be wanted more than anything in the world," end quote, something like this. And down the lengthening shadow, divine ones fuse streets with the forms of beauty to be. In the Creopole, dragged up centuries, lust seared, wilding the nature of light. Switched out, served abjection, squatted for heat and harmonics. Weight borne against her body. Thanks.
Okay, I think I'm next. I'm Vincent. Yeah, thank you, Rosa, and thank you, Nick, for putting this together. And it's just so exciting to be honoring Frank O'Hara, who wrote so many incredible poems in such a short time. And I've always been fascinated by his friendship and relationship with V.R. Lang, Violet Lang, also known as Bunny, and how some of her poems were originally thought to be written by him, and just that you can see almost, I guess, like a mutual influence in his early poems and her poems. And also just want to give a shout out to Rosa for The Miraculous Season, which I think is such a great collection and an introduction to that book. Thank you for that. This is a very early poem from, I think, 1950 by O'Hara. Oh, and I love that it just, you know, in a very typically O'Harian way, just throws in, without citing, of course, reference to a piece by Mussorgsky and a piece by Rimsky-Korsakov. So there's kind of this Russian vibe happening. V.R. Lang. You were so serious, as if a glacier spoke in your ear, or you had to walk through the great gate of Kiev to get to the living room. I worry about this because I love you. As if it weren't grotesque enough that we live in hydrogen and breathe like atomizers, you have to think I'm a great architect. And you float regally by on your incessant escalator, calm, a jungle queen, thinking it a steam shovel, looking a little uneasy. But you are yourself again, yanking silver beads off your neck. Remember, the Russian Easter Overture is full of bunnies. Be always high, full of regard and honor and lanolin. Oh, ride horseback in pink linen. Be happy and with your beads on, because it rains. That's a great. The flamboyant and uninhibited Frank O'Hara there. And I'll just read a short poem of my own. On hearing the Strokes outside Commons for Isaac and Oliver. Music coming down again, a simple refrain, a little mournful, but then that is the tenor ultimately. And if it's reminiscent of other music, that too is a human trait. At the end, we all just sit with what we've got. Thank you. Thank you, Frank O'Hara.
Anne, I think you are up next. I'm pretty sure we have Anne. I saw her earlier.
And unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ron. Is she there?
Here we go. I'm here.
Hooray! We have her.
Hiding. It was hiding. Thank you so much. And thank you, Rosa, and thank you, Nick, and everybody. Wonderful to hear these poems, and a great, many happy returns to Frank and his poetry. So I did a little kind of ritual by going into just walking around the neighborhoods. I'm in New York City at the moment, where I am most of the time these days, and I'd gone over to the T-board to see the wonderful Nell Blaine. I was thinking about what are the, the lineage and the things that continue in our own, sense of being poets in community and so on. And so this connection between the artists and the poets, and I thought of Frank O'Hara, specifically the Jane Freilich poems and his relationship with her, friendship. And so I wandered where Jane used to live on Fifth Avenue when she lived there, later years of her life. Wandered by Grace Church, where O'Hara had been living close by, across the street, and wandered to, thought about, relationships with specifically women painters of my own, and the fact that Pat Steer, a great friend, had just died yesterday, and continuing some work with her and writing something for Martha Diamond, who was very much in the New York school sort of spirit and community around the poetry project and so on, and came to town with Donna Dennis and Peter Sheldo. So I'm sorry to go through this history, but for me it's like the vibrancy of those days and how we've continued with real power and loyalty and devotion. And Donna and Martha lived across the street on St. Mark's Place when I lived there. I also went over to Second Avenue. I had originally planned to try to do Second Avenue, but that was too long. But I wanted to suggest an experiment where you take the poem, Frank O'Hara's poem, and you you walk on Second Avenue as far as you want to go, and you interlace things from his poem. And I have a piece like that called Bodhisattva Frank, but it's too long as well. So I'm going to start, though, with something of my own, which is a poem for Jane Freilich, inspired, of course. It's called Nostalgia. To you, muse, who rocked the brains of so many of my heroes, you, a hero too, for wise quip, bon mot, and panoramic eye, and stand up all around beauty, enters the room, our own Barbara Stanwyck. Glamorous, slender, assured, always gracious, if not a bit impatient. Why aren't these people wittier? Perky word monger wonder figure of a liberated tongue, not miss a beat, voice distinct in the ear. It was your classy parties with drink and din, kinetics of best talk in town. Morris, Barbara, John, Yvonne, Alex, Joe Lasser, Keniston, Rudy, Red, Ada, Ned, Larry, Harry, Mimi, Maxine, Kenneth Smile, Hubby Joe's hospitality, but always a bit of intimidation round you with your aura, those staggeringly great poems writ in your honor, amplifying the head. You turn crazy Jane of poetic trope into upscale, glowing, modish, madcap Jane, legendary gossip's elegance mounting around you, star, La Freilicher, formidable, and by contrast, although you were never loud, the quietest paintings, as if noise forever absent or transmuted into compressed tension, and arrangement transfer was perfectly natural. John Ashbery calls tentative. Could we dare say egoless in this tribute? Spaces between objects come onto this window ledge, this table, center of the world, a hearth to mute a button on the roar. Hush here before your stroke and palette. Can't thank you enough, ingenious painter, for these and continuity, but back, come back again. Can't get enough of the parties of yesteryear. Terrific Fifth Avenue apartments readiness, gleam of us shining too. Happy to be in your realm a moment, and Jimmy showing up in what Kenward called his lub period, with biker chains around his neck, and Joe Brainerd lanky, innocently louche, and people still smoked. I remember being haunted indelibly. How get so lucky to be here? High tone and that inimitable talk again will never be the same in purgatorial New York. Caught on time spiral, Jane, helping many of us late arrivists enter the Academy of the New York School Future, which opened its doors to us. And then the interior with Jane. And yeah, I'll look up more about her. This is Frank. The eagerness of objects to be what we are afraid to do cannot help but move us. Is this willingness to be a motive in what we reject? The really stupid things, I mean, a can of coffee, a 35-cent earring, a handful of hair. What do these things do to us? We come into the room. The windows are empty. The sun is weak and slippery on the ice. And a sob comes simply because it is coldest of the things we know. And then Shea Jane. The white chocolate jar full of petals swirls odds and ends around in a dizzying eye of 4 o'clocks now and to come. The tiger, marvelously striped and irritable, leaps on the table and without disturbing a hair of the flower's breathless attention, pisses into the pot, right down its delicate spout. A whisper of steam goes up from the porcelain urethra. Saint-Saëns, it seems to be whispering, curling unerringly around the furry nuts of the terrible puss who is mentally flexing. Ah, be with me always, spirit of noisy contemplation in the studio. The garden of zoos, the eternally fixed afternoons. There, while music scratches its scrofulous stomach, the brute beast emerges and stands, clear and careful, knowing always the exact peril at this moment, caressing his fangs with a tongue given wholly to luxurious usages, which only a moment before dropped aspirin in this sunset of roses, and now throws a chair in the air to aggravate the truly menacing. Frank O'Hara, many happy returns. It's so great to hear you all and see you.
Thank you so much, Anne. I just want to check if Sophie is here, who's our next reader, but I couldn't see Sophie in the list. Sophie, are you here? Okay, possibly not, in which case, Cedar, are you ready to go?
Yes, I think so.
Oh. We've got an interesting echo going on.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute and see if that helps.
Okay. Wow.
Can I just double check that everyone is muted? And whether that noise is happening for anyone except me. Ah,
No,
we've
it's
managed to
definitely
solve it
happening.
somehow. Oh, have we?
Let's see.
Cedar, turn your volume down.
Get this working.
Okay, how about that? Oh, it's pretty bad. Maybe I should not do it.
Oh, that's so sad though.
That's
if
okay.
anyone understands what's going on tech-wise.
Do you have it on two things, Cedar? Like, do you have like it on your phone also or something?
No. I sound like John Giorno.
It sounds cool, but I'd rather hear you read without
Why
it.
don't you try your phone, Cedar? Why don't you
What?
try your phone? Get on your phone.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, we
come
can
back.
totally come back to you.
Hi. Okay, sorry everyone. I hate to be a tease.
Wait, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's not that bad right now. I'd go ahead and try.
You think I should just try?
Yes, and I think
Okay.
whilst you're reading, if you turn your volume like pretty much all the way down, we'll still be able to hear you, but it might not do the feedback.
Okay, let's see. Well, I chose a poem from Love Poems tentative title. And it's a poem for Donald Allen. Now the violets are all gone. The rhinoceroses, the symbols. A grisly pale has settled over the stockyard where the fur flies, and the sound is that of a bulldozer in heat, stuck in the mud, where a lilac still scrawnyly blooms and cries out, "Walt." So they repair the street in the middle of the night, and Alan and Peter can once again walk forth to visit friends. In the illuminated moonlight over the mists and the towers, having mistakenly thought that B.B. Daniels was in I Cover the Waterfront instead of Claudette Colbert. It has begun to rain softly, and I walk slowly, thinking of becoming a stalk of asparagus for Halloween, which idea Vincent poo-poos as not being really 40s. So the weight of the rain drifting amiably is like a sentimental breeze, and seems to have been invented by a collapsed Kim Novak balloon. Yet Janice is helping Kenneth appeal to the Ford Foundation in her manner oft described as the sweet, succinct. And Ned is glad not to be up too late for the sake of his music, and his ear where discipline finds itself singing and even screaming away. I shall not dine another night like this, with Robin and Dawn and Joe, as lightly as the day is gone, but that was earlier. A knock on the door, my heart, your heart, my head, and the strange reality of our flesh in the rain. So many parts of a strange existence, independent, but not searching in the night, nor in the morning when the rain has stopped. Okay. Thank you.
Cedar, I should say it was in the end very atmospheric. Ian, I think you're up next.
Yeah, it's me. I've got my Frank O'Hara party hat on. So yeah, I'm reading from a gallery after dark, which I hope Frank would appreciate. I'm at the Fruit Market in Edinburgh where I work tonight, and randomly downstairs, Steve Davis, who used to be a snooker champion, has become an electronic musician and is playing a gig. So I just want to offer that to Frank as a birthday present, that random constellation of things. So I'm going to read the poem that Nat mentioned earlier. I love it too, Nat, Homosexuality, the poem and the thing. And I'm reading from the New York Poets Anthology edited by Mark Ford. So thank you to Mark as well, because this is where I first discovered it and fell in love with it, and many other of Frank O'Hara's poems now many years ago, I guess, because none of us are getting any younger. Anyway, homosexuality. So, we are taking off our masks, are we? And keeping our mouths shut, as if we'd been pierced by a glance. The song of an old cow is not more full of judgment than the vapours which escape one's soul when one is sick. So, I pull the shadows around me like a puff and crinkle my eyes as if at the most exquisite moment of a very long opera, and then we're off, without reproach and without hope that our delicate feet will touch the earth again, let alone very soon. It is the law of my own voice I shall investigate. I start like ice, my finger to my ear to my heart, that proud cur at the garbage can in the rain. It's wonderful to admire oneself with complete candor. Tallying up the merits of each of the latrines, 14th Street is drunken and credulous. 53rd tries to tremble, but is too at rest. The good love a park, and the inept a railway station, and there are the divine ones who drag themselves up and down the lengthening shadow of an Abyssinian head in the dust, trailing their long, elegant heels of hot air, crying to confuse the brave, "It's a summer day, and I want to be wanted more than anything else in the world." And I'm going to read a response poem to that, which I started like during COVID. So if you hear a COVID reference, that's why. And this was a lovely excuse to work it up. So this is called Homosexuality Intersected by Loud Yaps, and it takes as its epigraph O'Hara's first line. So we are taking off our masks, are we, and keeping our mouths shut. And so take off mine, absolutely, will I? While the Rainbow American grad students on Edinburgh's 42 bus, who make it horny and unfamiliar, argue about AI and whether they're asking the right questions. Are they? About what it sees. Does it? While my demask rationales only I bear not burp, must burp I under a mask seal. It's unpleasant, even though rules. And woof! Truth sits just a dog away, barking all over us, with more of an intermittent yap than underpinning algorithm. And I, homeostatic, ask myself, self ask I, whether to breathe out, breathe in the undercirculated air. Open a window, won't they? As I, passive, absorb a breakthrough in the state's cruise conversation. Don't look at me as I voice note record, voice note I, as they say yes, yes, the air is static, and starting me a new thought of has anybody satirized England's COVID policy, satirize any, using Frank's homosexually frank first line. Oh, frank him now, do I? Sure, it'd seem a cheap niche shot, though laugh I close-mouthedly, until I want that yippity dog doggone shoot off the bus. My wearied ears can't take his whimsy. The grad studes reach now homo-ecstatic release after their tense, long, sedentary argument resolves in the mask strapping down of the university sports fields, following Cameron's strip mall's weighed down influx. But whoa, my queerly ridden classmates seem to have checked not stop lists well. Unstuck come they? And not a predictable spiral this shrewd bus homes through. Bus bell rung, the last I hear are sophists' talks, the tale of a frenemies asking a rude club question, and then these wandering sages perorate off. Disembark they at Priestfield, tapping the contactless bus pad twice, which I know's wrong behaviour. Though it goes on in public, the driver quips. Do they think they're in London? Well, aren't they? Vexatious varmint vamooses too. So long, pooch. When we stragglers commute we still, stopped at lights, spy a baby wrong ways round below, unsafely strapped in a straight cis car, but don't hate on the pressed hard parents who, if Puerto Rican, are hardly in the game. The sun bounces himself thrillingly through windows before freeing us into long-lit evening's pleasure come post-genial drudgery, doesn't it ever? Thank you. Happy birthday, Frank.
Thank you so much, Ian, and thank you so much for showing us all up by wearing a hat. I wanted to source a hat. I could not find one. Thank you so much. We do now have Sophie, so if it's all right with Jameson, we're going to go Sophie next, then Jameson, then Eileen. Thank you. Sophie, you there?
Hi, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm sorry I'm late. Both my computer and my phone are on like 5% battery, so I hope this is going to be okay. I just got to London. It is such a pleasure to read this. I'm just going to read Having a Coke with You. I went with a classic. Having a Coke with you is even more fun than going to San Sebastian, Irun, Hendaye, Biarritz, Bayonne, or being sick to my stomach on the Travesera de Gracia in Barcelona. Partly because in your orange shirt you look like a better, happier San Sebastian, partly because of my love for you, partly because of your love for yogurt, partly because of the fluorescent orange tulips around the birches, partly because of the secrecy our smiles take on before people and statuary. It's hard to believe when I'm with you that there can be anything as still, as solemn, as unpleasantly definitive as statuary, when standing right in front of it in the warm New York 4 o'clock light, we are drifting back and forth between each other like a tree breathing through its spectacles. And the portrait show seems to have no faces in it at all, just paint. You suddenly wonder why in the world anyone ever did them. I look at you and I would rather look at you than all the portraits in the world, except possibly for the Polish rider occasionally. And anyway, it's in the Frick, which thanks heavens you haven't gone to yet, so we can go together the first time. And the fact that you move so beautifully more or less takes care of futurism. Just as at home, I never think of a nude descending a staircase, or at a rehearsal, a single drawing of Michelangelo or Leonardo that used to wow me. And what good does all the research of the Impressionists do them when they never got the right person to stand near the tree when the sun sank. Or for that matter, Marino Marini when he didn't choose the rider as carefully as the horse. It seems they were all cheated of some marvelous experience, which is not going to go wasted on me, which is why I'm telling you about it. Thank you.
Sophie, wanting to read one of your own as well, or are you worried about battery life?
I'm gonna it is a miracle that I made it here, and I am very happy to leave it on a high note of Frank, and I'm really looking forward to hearing Jameson and Eileen. Thank you, Rosa.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have to apologize because I'm a little hoarse. My colleagues and I were on strike at the beginning of this week. We did win, so, spirits are high. But that's why I sound a little different than I sometimes do. I hope I'm fully intelligible. And I'm gonna keep it going with one of Frank's great love poems. Now that I am in Madrid and can think, I think of you and the continents, brilliant and arid, and the slender heart you are sharing my share of with the American air, as the lungs I have felt sonorously subside, slowly greet each morning, and your brown lashes flutter, revealing two perfect dawns colored by New York. See a vast bridge stretching to the humbled outskirts with only you standing on the edge of the purple like an only tree. And in Toledo, the olive grove's soft blue look at the hills with silver, like glasses, like an old lady's hair. It's well known that God and I don't get along together. It's just a view of the brassworks to me. I don't care about the moors. Seen through you, the great works of death, you are greater. You are smiling. You are emptying the world so we can be alone. And I wanted to read a love poem, but it's been a long time since I wrote one. So I'm going to read what I kind of think of as my Why I Am Not a Novelist poem, in the spirit of something we heard from Kristen earlier. There is similitude. She had an idea to write a novel called Confidence, Discipline, and Imagination. She thinks by naming what she lacks, she might summon them. And in this way remains incurably a poet. It is as though she can only bear to hear the difference for a moment before life's detritus comes clamoring in. Truly, she loves the hum of things, how they are done, the ways each was each way it was. But of all her humiliations, none so great as her being a closet mystic, the wish in her so like a story, imperiled in the telling. Thank you and happy birthday, Frank.
Hey, thank you, James. Great to see you, Jameson. Great to see everybody. It's like amazing to read with my favorite people in the world. This is such a sweet event. So, Rosa and Nick, thank you for doing this awesome thing. And it's so intense that Frank O'Hara will be 100 today. And to think that he died at 40, that we've all been younger than that and then older than that, and that we've all outlived our elder, which is so strange. And yet, I'm so grateful to be alive, and they were all alive today, and in such a bad time. So I got to say, free Palestine, free Lebanon, free Iran, free everybody from us, and free us from us. So I'm going to read the first section of In Memory of My Feelings, which is kind of morose, But I think birthdays, I mean, they're, even when they're fun, they're secretly morose. So, and I'll read a poem of my own, which is also um, down there, kind of. So, in memory of my feelings for Grace Hadigan. My quietness has a man in it. He is transparent, and he carries me quietly like a gondola through the streets. He has several likenesses, like stars and years, like numerals. My quietness has a number of naked selves, so many pistols I have borrowed to protect myself from creatures who too readily recognize my weapon and have murder in their heart. Though in winter they are warm as roses in the desert, taste of chilled anisette, at times withdrawn. I rise into the cool skies and gaze on at the imponderable world with the simple identification of my colleagues, the mountains. Manfred climbs to my nape, speaks, but I do not hear him. I'm too blue. An elephant takes up his trumpet. Money flutters from the windows of cries, silk stretching its mirror across shoulder blades. A gun is fired. One of me rushes to window number 13, and one of me raises his whip, and one of me flutters up from the center of the track amidst the green flamingos. And underneath their hoofs as they round the last turn, my lips are scarred and brown, brushed by tails, masked in dirt's lust. Definition, open mouths gasping for the cries of the betters for the lungs of earth. So many of my transparencies could not resist the race. Terra in earth, dried mushrooms, pink feathers, tickets, a flaking moon drifting across the muddy teeth, the imperceptible moan of covered breathing, love of the serpent. I am underneath its leaves as the hunter crackles and pants and bursts as the barrage balloon drifts behind a cloud, and animal death whips out its flashlight, whistling. And slipping the glove off the trigger hand, the serpent's eyes redden at sight of those thorny fingernails. He is so smooth. My transparent selves flail about like vipers in a pail, writhing and hissing, without panic, with a certain justice of response. And presently the aquiline serpent comes to resemble the Medusa. Boink. So Frank, you are so awesome. And here's Eileen. And this is called What Tree Am I Waiting? That whole part of the world where I won't go anymore, that whole separation, that I won't feel high in this house, in this hemisphere, in this artificial light that is artificial, in the earliest morning, dark, in pages and pens, in an unfamiliar bed, in the foot curl, furniture, each rumble. When morning comes and it's still morning, and it's still night. I married a dead girl. We were born in her bloom. Remember that fat bumblebee landed on a lamp. I opened the doors and I forgot, and the house got colder and colder. Where is this house? The seam between boards merely gains my attention. It's dark and thin. I monitor each situation, my bladder growing full. Climb down, climb up. What tree am I waiting? My whole life in weather. Waiting for my raft. I'll fly to another island. I'll take a train. Already I know it will hurt. This is the hurt country. I came here to hold the hurt like a bird, like a tree. Traffic has rings. We watch it whirl around, damaging our night. Great continents hold the feelings and the ages. What is mine? Going blind. Great masses of them not going home. The country drew a line because of memory. One said, I feel my heart race ahead. In eternity, there is this ache. There is this wakefulness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Thank you, absolutely, everybody. We have unbelievably kept to astonishing time, which does not normally happen at poetry readings. So congratulations, everybody. I'm just gonna quickly finish off because we've been having a party. What we should have after a party is for grace after a party. So I'm gonna briefly read that and then ask you all join me in thanking all of the poets and wishing Frank a happy birthday. But this is For Grace After a Party from my like intensely ridiculous collected poems. And there's Frank. For Grace After a Party. You do not always know what I am feeling. Last night, in the warm spring air, while I was blazing my tirade against someone who doesn't interest me, it was love for you that set me afire. And isn't it odd? For in rooms full of strangers, my most tender feelings writhe and bear the fruit of screaming. Put out your hand. Isn't there an ashtray suddenly there, beside the bed? And someone you love enters the room and says, wouldn't you like the eggs a little different today? And when they arrive, they are just plain scrambled eggs, and the warm weather is holding. Thank you to everyone for coming. Thank you so much to our readers. We heard tonight from the absolutely inestimable Peter GIZZI, Ron Padgett, Kay Gabriel, Dottie Lasky, Jay Gao, Leanne Brown, Mark Ford, KRISTÍN ÓMARSDÓTTIR, Nat Raha, Vincent KATZ, Anne Waldman, Sophie Robinson, Cedar SIGO, Ian Morrison, Jameson Fitzpatrick, and Eileen Miles. I'm so grateful for you all for being here, listeners, poets, readers. Happy birthday, Frank. We love you so much. It's ridiculous. Thank you all for coming. This will be made available as a recording so we can all revisit it. Please, if you are interested in keeping up to date with the work of the Network for New York School Studies, please do get in touch with me or Nick. And thank you again, everybody, and good night.
Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you, poets.
Thank you.
Jean Dubuffet. When you think of him doing his military service in the Eiffel Tower as a meteorologist in 1922, you know how wonderful the 20th century can be. And the gated Iroquois on the girders, fierce and unflinching footed, nude as they should be, slightly empty, like a Sonia Delani. There is a parable of speed somewhere behind the Indians' eyes. They invented the century with their horses and their fragile backs, which are dark. We owe a debt to the Iroquois and to Duke Ellington for playing in the buildings when they are built. We don't do much ourselves, but fuck and think of the haunting metro and the one who didn't show up there while we were waiting to become part of our century. Just as you can't make a hat out of steel and wear it. Who wears hats anyway? It is our tribe's custom to beguile. How are you feeling in ancient September? I am feeling like a truck on a wet highway. How can you? You were made in the image of God. I was not. I was made in the image of a sissy truck driver. And Jean Dubuffet painting his cows, with the likeness burst in the memory. Apart from love, don't say it. I am ashamed of my century for being so entertaining, but I have to smile.